Hello and welcome to all to this webinar, Street Children and Community-Based Intervention, a Global South Experiences, which is hosted by APA Division 52, International Psychology. This webinar is part of the series titled The Vision from the Global South, to celebrate the activities of psychologists that live in the Global South, to provide useful information for international engagement and to encourage us to take a broad and global perspective. This webinar series has been founded by the interdivisional grant, Culturally Competent Counseling, Vision from the Global South in partnership with Division 17 Counseling Psychology. My name is Pina Marsico, and I'm the current president of Division 52 and your host for today's webinar. I want to thank the members of the webinar committee, Dr. Tio Lazarus, the chair, Dr. Tatiana El-Noor, and Raffaele Modugno. Before we begin, our online audience have the ability to ask questions by typing them in the chat box located at the bottom left of your screen. Please feel free to type your question during the presentation, and Dr. El-Noor will be making note of them, organizing them, and during the last 12 minutes or so, she will present them to our speaker. At this time, I will introduce and welcome our guest speaker. Dr. Sílvia Helena Koller is a Brazilian developmental psychologist, one of the most famous ones, by the way, retired full professor and chair of the Center for Psychological Studies of At-Risk Population in the Department of Psychology at Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, and professor at the Northwest University, South Africa. She was a visiting scientist at Harvard Graduate School of Education and Harvard Chin School of Public Health. She has strong interest and commitment to the internationalization of knowledge in psychology, which has led her to disseminate Brazilian research in various scientific associations around the world, taking various positions in international organizations and as well as publishing her research on high-quality journals. She has been qualified to advance the ongoing investigation on at-risk population, focusing mostly on translational and applied psychology and based on a bioecological theoretical perspective. Her interests are also focused on children's rights, resilience, prejudice, and pro-social moral development. She has lectured at different universities around the world, of course in South Africa, in Switzerland, in USA, in Colombia, in Chile, in many other places, in Peru, etc. Now it's time to welcome you, Dr. Koller. It's to me a great pleasure having you in this webinar series of Division 52. Welcome, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. I have to thank you, Pina, Marsico, and your colleagues, and also the Division for International Studies, the APA Division. And it's a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And I'm going to talk much about the work I used to do. I am a retired professor now, but I'm still very proud of the work we did. And I will always speak on the we person, because it's not my work, it's not my job. It was the work of a research and community leaders team who are still there working around the world. And so I'm going to talk about my rising stars, my former students who are now very important professors around the world. If Raffaele can pass the slides, because he's, yeah. That's the name of my center. Our center was Center for Psychological Studies on Street Children from the beginning. And we had the focus on at-risk populations. In the very beginning, we started working with street children. It was an idea that I had during my PhD studies at Arizona State University. And then I decided to come back to Brazil to open the center. And I had a team of students and community members that we actually started searching for literature on street children in Brazil. And amazingly, in a country like ours, a very poor country with a lot of street children, we had no literature in psychology about them at all. No scientific literature. So you can go, Rafaeli, please. Just go and I'll go after you, okay? This center changed its name to at-risk populations from the beginning. Our main project was to do research and create materials and publications about street children, but we soon realized that we had no people prepared to work with them in the communities and institutions. So we decided to start also preparing and training students to work in communities and other institutions, etc. And also we realized that we need to do dissemination and advocacy. So it was a center inside the university, but besides doing research, publishing, teaching students to be better psychologists, but also to go to the communities and make sense of our work. It was very hard in the beginning, but we searched for communities of interest, meaning centers, shelters, government. We search for people and places where we could answer to their demand as a stimulus for research. And also we could create resources and referrals and let them be our partners. So we could disseminate our findings for the betterment of street children and their families and communities' lives. So that's why we changed the name of Center for the Study on Street Children to at-risk populations, because at the moment that we start working with street children, we realized that it was just a little piece of a major problem. So we went back. I used to say that we did the path that kids have done in another direction. We went back to their families and we found a lot of abuse and neglect and drug use and sexual exploitation and poverty and many other problems. And it was very important from the beginning to us to create materials that we could share, not only with the academic community, but also to create manuals and websites and other folders and everything, so we could share with them. More than that, we used to have a report of every finding, going back to the communities and share our findings in a very friendly, I can say, way, when we could talk with community. And actually it was a very good strategy, because besides sharing our findings, we learned much more, and we got the confidence and the, a very friendly feeling of the community and institutions to have us working with them. The CEP Rua, which we call in Portuguese, the center was there for almost 20 years. It was created for 4 professors at the Universidade Federal do Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil, Professor Cláudio Utz, Professor Denise Bandeira, psychologist Letícia Foster, and myself. And it was a great success for a lot of time. Go ahead, Rafaeli, please. Well, our first question was, what does psychology know about street children? As I told you before, I went to the libraries all around the world in Brazil, searching for psychological literature on street children here, and I couldn't find much. And when I found good pieces were not belonging to, they didn't belong to the psychology field. So go ahead, please. And we had a lot of challenges, and we have to create a lot of strategies, because as you can see in this picture, it's not a very friendly view when you look at this picture at the beginning, but we soon realized that it was really friendly, and we had to have a way to work with them without imposing our values, our expectations, and go there to find those families and try to do our best as psychologists, as professors, as researchers. And then we also had to find a theory and a methodology to do our work. I was very happy to work for a long time, actually, with Uri Bronfenbrenner. I'm sure that you all know him. He already passed a long time ago. But I was lucky to go to Cornell University to discuss our ideas with him. And he always used to say that Bronfenbrenner created that wonderful theory that is well known and very well used around the world, but he didn't have created a methodology to do another, research and everything. So I discussed with him a lot of our ideas, and I'm very happy and very, sure that it works. And it is a methodology based on the psychological process, the person, the context, and the time, the history of people. And we created that methodology to work with street children and their families and other communities. Go ahead, please. So our idea is to place the researcher as a developing person inside the community, inside the research situation, and to have a closer relation with our object of study. It was an idea of Alessandra Seconello, who was one of my former students. And we went to this community to learn and to try to organize our methodology around the process, person, time, and context, using Bronfenbrenner's idea and producing research and instruments and even theory about the findings we have. Go ahead, please. I will share with you just a few ideas. We published actually a book I'll show you the reference at the end. And this methodology has been used all around the country and other countries. It's well cited and very well known nowadays. And it is based on having a journal, like a field diary of the insertion inside the community. We had to have the participation of our research team in activities like informal and informal moments. So it's not like other ways of doing research that go there, get the questionnaire answers, get the information, and go back to the university. We used to stay with the community for a period of time. And we developed bonds with participants and institutions. It was very important. Otherwise, we couldn't approach them. And it was amazing, because if I will tell you all the stories we had during this period and in using this experience, I'll stay here talking for hours. And we also use several strategies of data collection: interviews, tests, scales, and other methodologically appropriate materials in psychology. We kind of adapt it to use in this community. I will show you some about this soon. Go ahead, Rafael. One of the bases of the ecological engagement or bioecological engagement, we use both terminologies, is the proximal process, which means that development happens when a person is engaged in one activity. Like the researcher also had to engage with the participant in this activity. And we were very lucky to achieve this perspective. We have to have this interaction in a regular basis. It's not, as I told you before, we used to go there and have a contract with people and really belong to their context. And the activities should be progressively more complex, which differs from other ways of doing research when people go there and get a questionnaire or a scale answer, or, we used to go there, stay with them, participate in the community and activities in institutions, everything. And then we proposed to use the instrument, the interview, more formally to have the psychological database. It's very important that we have to have reciprocity in the interpersonal relationships. And I can tell you plenty of stories, and many of my former students for sure can do that, telling how many times we have to stop doing data collection to listen to their, problems and to answer to their demands, or just, okay, we are not going to talk about this anymore, and we have to do another activity. For example, we had this 8-year-old little boy asking how to use condoms. And we started, when we listened to this question coming from an 8-year-old boy, we have to, stop and go after more information to see, okay, why does he want to know about this? Or a 13-year-old girl asking how to use needles. you know? So we cannot answer this question. We have to go, stop doing research, stop everything you are doing, and go after more information to give some support and to protect this participant. It's very important also to stimulate the attention, exploration, manipulation, and the personal imagination. We have to have this around us all the time to actually learn what's going on in our research field. Go ahead, please. So it's very necessary to distinguish the ecological engagement from other proposals of research. Many people say, oh, it's ethnographic, participant research, or action research. It's not. It's not, because before going to the field, we have to, you know, have a lot of, or everything. We have to read a lot and practice a lot about the bioecological theory, which was proposed for Bronfenbrenner. Go ahead, please. There he is. The quality of our data and analysis, it gains life. We have the data collection, since we were there, participating in the everyday life of our community and participants. We give, as researchers who know a lot of about the theory, it gives validity. And then we can use this data to, you know, to feed social policies and everything. Go ahead, please. So it's a very intrinsic and imbricated diagram. You know, everything is connected, and the data has validation if we have all this in our minds. Go ahead, please. We use multi-methods in our research encompassing ecological engagement. It was strongly recommended that even quantitative and qualitative strategies were integrated into the study. Go ahead, please. We use a lot of instruments that were there in psychology, very well known and valid and everything. We organized the research collection using those instruments. Before going to the field, we had a very, very strict work on ethical, theoretical, and methodological trainings with the research team. And it's very interesting because sometimes we had this team doing X research, and we used to train this group, 5, 6 students and psychologists, to go to the field. We trained them for 1 week, and they go to the field and they come back with very interesting findings and you know, ideas and perspectives, and even their feelings were okay. Other teams, before going to the field, we trained them for 3 months till we had this idea, okay, now you are ready to go. And sometimes after 1 week, someone comes back saying, it's not for me, I'm not going there anymore. And that's it, you know. So this training beforehand was really very important. And we had to guarantee, as I told you before, the profound knowledge regarding the theory. Otherwise, we couldn't use well the methodology. Go ahead, please. So it's a very intrinsic to have ethical, theoretical demands, engagement, methodology, the relationship between the researcher and the participants while they were in the ecological context. Go ahead, please. This is the diagram that we've been seeing different perspectives of the ecological system created by Bronfenbrenner. And this one is very special because, as you can see, the lines between the systems are pointed. They are not concrete. So it shows the permeability of the fields and the systems when we take into account the theory. But this one was created for a family system, you know, regular kids. But the next one, please, was created for a street child. So the configuration, I'm sorry, it's in Portuguese, but I know that many of you can read. The configuration is about the same, and the lines are not dotted because it's very hard for the street children to, you know, to belong to different contexts and to navigate among those different systems. So we had this into account. Next, please. So when the team was in the field, we have to have very clear objectives. We have to have this psychological contract. We usually use the informed consent, also to use their images. We have a chronology of data collection, so we didn't pretend to be their the community gurus or the kids gurus. We had this day that we go there, and they knew from the beginning that we will come to this, like this street or square or community or institution, and we will be with you every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon from 2 to 4 for 3 months. And after that, you have our phone number. And if you need anything, you can reach us, and we'll try to, you know, do something to be with you. So we were not gurus, we were just researchers, but we really had this feeling of belonging to their what's going on? Okay. As I told you before, we develop links between researcher and participants. Many times we kind of refer those participants to institutions, to schools. We went back to their families with them. We organized a new family home for them, like a foster care, and documents, many things. So it was much more than just a researcher. We were there for the kids and be part of the context and do the data collection in this place were really part of their daily lives and our daily lives. We visit regularly the research site and participate in their activities. So we had lunch with them at the institutions. We went to field trips and many things, and even sit down in the city center to to belong to this context as well. Next, please. As I told you before, timing matters. So it's not a chronological issue, but a matter of developing bonds and reciprocity. If you say to them, I'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4, you better go, So that's the way we train our teams. So this is very important, and it's also cultural dependent. The researcher needs to be aware that he or she is going to another culture, and we have to, promote proximity, intimacy, and confidence. The daily life of the context and the life of those participants on the streets and also in some favelas communities used to be very dynamic and not very well organized. So we have to get used to it. Next, please. As I told you before, we use rigorous scientific and ethical methodological standards as instruments. We use psychometric scales and other valid instruments which were adapted, and we had to use accordingly to the manual. And but we try to organize those instruments in a natural way, which was much easier for their reality and also the context. Can you imagine using a questionnaire or a very formal interview in the middle of a city square with a lot of people passing around and, all the stimulus that they have? And our idea was to create a more ludic and adequate instrument for their reality. Next, please. This one is one of the instruments we use. It's called 5-field map. It was used in the very beginning. And so the idea was, if you go to a school, for example, you go to a school with a piece of paper, a pencil, and you have this like a pizza divided in 5 fields: family, school, relatives, formal contacts, and friends. And you ask the kids to draw their 5-field maps, relationships in different pieces. He or she will be in the middle, and the proximity is related to the sizes of the pizza. And but it doesn't work with street children when you go to a square. So next, please. We created like a game. So it was like a Velcro and Feltro and small figures, and we created their fields every time like a game. So it was really interesting because, and very, reliable, because we did that in different times with the same kids, and the answers were very, very similar. So like in this case, there is this girl in the middle, and she puts her mother and siblings and other people from her family in this piece of the pizza. And we use that as a very ludic and playful instrument. Next, please. The other instrument that you use, which was very, very well received and interesting and gave us a lot of very important data, was the sentence completion tasks. So instead of going to the kids and asking about how is your family life, what do you want about your family, we just pretend to do like a game, you know. So I used to tell them, okay, I'm going to give you some information. I will say a sentence and you have to finish it. And we have to do it very quickly. So we use like, I wish my family, and they answer. When I was little, my family treats me like, and it was really interesting and funny, actually, because when they finish the game, the task, they used to say, okay, let's do it, everything again. It's so fun, you know? So it was very friendly and very different from doing an interview. And after getting those answers and results, we had a lot of content about their emotional situation, social situation, and we could explore more with them about the data that we have. Next, please. Next. Okay. Other way was do some observational studies. We did a lot of studies, and we had a lot of data just observing playful situations and how they deal with everyday life. And the other way was to use the photography as a research method. We have very strong data about them. Those pictures, by the way, were authorized by the judge, so it's okay to use. And the kids also know that we've been using. Now those pictures have a lot of, you know, they are very old already. This picture is, and the following, you can see, you can go, please. We asked kids we gave them cameras to go, it was a long time ago, so it's another way to do that now. But we gave them cameras and asked them some questions, and they have to answer those questions. Like in this case, the question was about their life projects in the future. And it was really interesting, especially this one in front of a gas station. He came with this picture, and then we asked him, why did you take this picture? And his answer was, because when I grow up, I want to have a different relation with drivers. If I work in a gas station in the future, I can go approach cars without, you know, being pushed or getting nasty answers. So he was planning to have a job and to have a different status when connecting to people, you know. The other one was a very clean house. This one is in front of the Brazilian bank. So he also said, I want to go to the bank when I grow up, and without being, you know, pushed away, because nowadays, if I go to the bank, they just say, okay, you cannot enter, you cannot go inside. So as you can see, we got a lot of their emotional and expression also how social contexts treat those children. Go ahead, please. So as I said before, we had this field diary. So every researcher had his or her diary, and we used to connect, to have a meeting every week, all the researchers all together to share with the team the results and their impressions and their reflections. And it was beautiful, actually, because I learned a lot from them, and they learned a lot from each other. And we did a lot of, feedback to the community, to the institutions, to the kids. And also we could organize ways of solving problems and to refer kids to have their documents, or to go to school, or to have a job training program, or other different situations. So it's very, very interesting. And I'm glad, I have to say, that we published a lot about our findings. I'm sorry, most of it is in Portuguese, but for those who can read, there is a a large literature, not just published by me, but by my colleagues and collaborators and myself, about the findings, not only regarding scientific literature, but we also created a lot of manuals and other, as we call, cartilhas, and children books to share with this community. Go ahead, please. Another point was very important was the supervision. Like I used to sit with every member, besides getting together, but also to have them engaged, and not only regarding the scientific and the methodological aspects, but also to give them some support. And we used to read the diary. We actually created, at that time, it was really something very interesting. We had this website. We had a password. So after going to the field, we used to write our feelings there and impressions, everything. And we give access to all the research team to learn more about our day and our experience during data collection. Go ahead, please. So it was really important to have reciprocity and permanent feedback and receptivity when working inside the research team, inside the communities or institutions, and also in the groups of children and families where we were working with. Go ahead, please. This is a picture of one of our programs. It used to be a very nice wall at the university. However, it doesn't exist anymore, which is a shame. But it was made during one of our programs. So ending the biological engagement, it was necessary that when we left the field, we have this information share with the community, and it was really clear for them and for us that there was this deadline, and we had this farewell party or ritual, so they knew that, okay, that's our last day here. We are going to the university, and we will come back in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months to give you feedback on our work. And this feedback usually was in a very simple language, because, you know, they don't read statistics, they don't know how to read scientific papers. So we had to have a very, you know, simple and friendly way of going there and giving them a feedback about the data and the, you know, their participation in our work. So that's why it was really important to do, and it was very well received. So it was a kind of translational research. It was used in many social policies, and we did very strong changes in some institutions and communities and social policies. And I'm pretty sure that our work was very well used and changed a lot of some situations that we had here. We gave the feedback to our participants, and it was really important. We use a very simple language, and this feedback used to be there where we collected data. However, we also opened the university. We have this Thursday morning seminar. It was a long time ago. So we started inviting community leaders and people who work with street children in communities and institutions and schools to come to the university to participate in this seminar. It was really a huge success. We had, in the first week, we invited one institution. The second week, we have to open a much bigger room. And afterwards, we have this big room. And we have people coming from different parts of the state to come. And it was interesting because we created like another community. And we used to invite people to come to, you know, to challenge them, like physicians, psychologists, and school directors to come to our seminar, to give a seminar. So they used to come there thinking that they were going to speak, you know, to give a lecture at the university. But our idea was to bring them to this community to do some work, some services to the community of street children. It was really something. I have another seminar to give about this. Go ahead, please. And of course, we publish in journals materials for the community. It's a shame I don't have it here with me, but I can show you afterwards. And we have to have very clear that our actions, our activities had a very political aspect. So our work was a political action, and we cannot lose, you know, this idea. So every effort in this sense should be encouraged. So it was really important. So it's not to do like a party politic claim, but it's to give guidelines, to give information, to organize, and to protect those at-risk populations. Go ahead, please. So after everything, what was missing from our research. And I'm sure that we have still those questions are open. So the majority world populations, communities should be conducted by majority world researchers. So we had a lot of experience with Global North researchers coming to the Global South, collecting data, going back to their countries, publishing our findings without giving us any support or recognition. And after, reading their papers, and we could see that they didn't speak a word of Spanish or Portuguese, but they used to come here, collect data, having our support and not giving us any credit and not giving to the community any support, any benefit. Thank God we had a lot of researchers coming from the Global North. For example, Dr. Marcela Raffaelli and others coming here and working with us for a long period of time, 30 years actually, publishing our findings together and bringing students to learn more about our reality and doing a difference. Another point is to have a full engagement of the communities and our population. So once again, we cannot go to the communities and just collect data and come back to the university and publish our work and go to the scientific meetings and getting support and grants and everything and not giving them any feedback or not engaging them in our researchers. Another point which is important, it happens a lot, was we had this very interesting theoretical point of view or research question, and we went to the community and getting there, they didn't care about our research question or our theories. They used to say, okay, you want to know that, we can help you with this information, we can give you the data. However, our main problem now is X, or so we changed everything, changing our research question to something which help much more the community and engage them in our work. We also need much more program impact, effectiveness, and policy, meaning that we have a lot of social programs and community programs and research programs, which we don't know anything if it's effective and if it's making any difference in the lives of people. So it's a very bright, big idea of someone who is sitting in a very nice office at the university or government position. But when we go there and see what's going on in the community and on the streets, we really need to change our perspective. So we need much more about this. We also need more positive instead of problematic outcomes. We all know that they are, being abused, neglect, that they sometimes are starving, that they need, regular schools and more education. But we should search for different and positive aspects. We learn a lot about how happy they can be, believe it or not, how bright they can be, how intelligent and, resourceful they are. So it's really, really important, not just saying that it's bad, it's not good, it doesn't work. No, they have a lot to teach us about their lives. And one important aspect was to give them authorship of their lives. They are the designers, the leaders, and the implementers in their lives and in our work. And to give them authorship of their lives, it's really, really important. It gives them a sense of belonging, of, they have a lot of value and they deserve to be seen as persons and members of the community. And if you can give them some support, they will find their own path. Next, please. So that's the book where we publish some of our research, and also we have other authors in this book from around the country who also use this methodology in their research, dissertations, theses, and other publications. And it's a very, very interesting book. We published it before in Portuguese, and then Springer invited us to, to update and to republish in English. So it's in the Springer website, and you can download or, have the book if you do some search there. Next, please. You can just pass the following. This is another book that we organized, Deborah Delaglio, which was a colleague at the university and also worked had her own research team on vulnerable children. We have this book on positive youth development in global context. And we have, this book is called Unknown Address, which is a very, very interesting book. It's a shame it's in Portuguese, but it's really have a lot of information about our work. Go ahead, please. This one also was published on our work with adolescents, especially at-risk population, sexually abused and neglect children. Go ahead, please. Those books were much more like manuals for the community to give them feedback on our work. So it's in a very simple language and very, interesting. Those books also were like manuals and a book for children about at-risk situations. Go ahead, please. Some other books that we published, it's been a lot, I know, and also manuals. And that's a picture of part of my team. And you can find my email address. I usually answer every mail I get, so feel free to send me messages with questions, comments, and requests, and I will answer as soon as I get them, till December 15. So thank you very much. Muchas gracias, muito obrigada, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions and to listen to your comments. Thank you.
Wow, Dr. Sílvia, thank you very much. This has been a very enriching and inspiring webinar, and also lots of interesting methodologies to consider working for specifically vulnerable communities. And now we would like to open the floor for questions. You can use the Q&A feature to post your question, and I'll be reading it out to Dr. Sílvia for you for answering it live. And we do have one question from Anna, Dr. Sílvia. And Anna thanks you, Professor Koller, for sharing your work today. She'd like to know more about how did you and your research group overcome the scientific barriers of neutrality in relation to working with communities?
Well, I guess I don't believe in neutrality, you know, and which is really a point that we had from the beginning of our work, because this is a big demand of the science. However, sometimes we had to choose between being neutral or just to give our research participants a chance, you know. So, and yeah, that's interesting, because it was we worried a little bit about this in the beginning, but afterwards, I guess we didn't had much problem about this. And as Pina said, we published a lot. We've been very well cited. Our research team is the most cited research team in psychology in Latin America. It's not my work only, it's a research team. So it's under my name, but it's their, you know, their achievement. So I really think, Ana Luisa, that it was not a problem. And as I showed you, we change instruments, we change methodologies, and we had good results. So it was well received, even in the global north, not only here.
Fascinating, fascinating. And I think I'd like to follow up on that, as you've mentioned, the utilization of various instruments. Could you speak more to the validity piece of, you know, of your research methodology, particularly in relation to ecological engagement? Did a particular set of instruments or tools showed more validity than others, particularly in different groups or age groups as well?
Yeah, I know. We soon learned that we couldn't use instruments like, you know, we also did some research in schools and, you know, other kinds of communities and other with other participants. But going to the streets, it's different. You cannot sit in the middle of a square, you know, with a paper and pencil or a long interview, you know, and go back to the university getting a lot of data, because it has no validity, you know, and they don't engage. Kids didn't engage because they have to survive, you know. And I can tell you stories, fascinating stories about this, you know. So we had to learn how to deal with. And we created many instruments, changing the setting of application of the instrument, the way to use that. And I used to tell my students that every dissertation or thesis had to have a paper on methodology, a paper on ethical issues, a paper on literature review, and a paper or more than one on the results. So we used to go ahead and try to do our best about this instrument, and then publish a paper on this. And it was well used for different research teams. But it was interesting also, and I have to tell this story because we had this interview that we used to go to different places in the same city to do research. And in the beginning, I had this idea that, oh, we are using those kids, we are taking a lot of time of them to answer questions. And one day I got 2 interviews from the same participant in the same day in those 2 different places in my desk. So the next day when I got there and I read the interviews, and we have this part where our researcher used to describe the children, the way they were dressing, if they had any scars or, you know, some of their features. So if you wanna, we decided to go after them for another reason. We had some more information, you know, and many times they didn't use their real names and this and that. So when I got to my office and I got those 2 interviews, I called my 2 students and said, okay, something is wrong here, because I have like Pedrinho, the name of this subject, being interviewed in X place at 6 p.m. And I have the same interview with him at 7 p.m. in another place. So what's going on here, you know? And they said, oh, but I interview him. So I went after Pedrinho the next day. And I said, okay, Pedrinho, I have those 2 interviews. And he said to me, oh, no problem. I know, I did that. I really did that. I was sitting in X, in this square at 6, and I talked with your student. And I decided to go downtown to go to the institution. And in my way to downtown, I remember that I missed some information. And I knew that you were at the other square in downtown. So I went then and I gave him my other student, the whole story again, you know, because I want to tell him about the situation. So I'm not sure if it was clear to you, but he wanted to talk with us. He wanted to share with us. He knew that our group was there for them, you know. So it was really, I convinced myself that, okay, they want to talk with us. They have a lot of information to give us, and they care about us as well. So it was really something that changed a lot of my perspective on doing research with them.
Fascinating. We do have another question, and it's from Rosa, who would like to ask you, could you share how funding was secured for conducting such research in an impoverished and already also financially neglected setting? And then what strategies were employed to overcome the financial challenges typically associated with such environments?
I cannot complain You know, I got a lot of financial support from international foundations and institutions, and Kellogg and what's the name again? It's a Kellogg Foundation, the one in Jacobs Foundation, and I have a grant from the Brazilian government. So my students had support from the Brazilian government also as, you know, student loans. So we got a lot of support, funding, yeah. So you have to, you know, to search for those institutions and organizations that have interest in those teams, in those populations, you know.
Great. And I must admit that we're receiving fascinating comments on your presentation and on the research and how you engage participants. So thank you very much and congratulations for a great work. Nandita would also like to ask a question in relation to combining qualitative and quantitative methods. Are there specific aspects you seek in quantitative data collection?
Sorry, can you repeat?
So you have mentioned that you used mixed methods approaches. So you use qualitative and quantitative data. So could you speak more to the quantitative portion of your research? What kind of data would you collect quantitatively?
Yeah, we, dear Nandita, my friend, we use a lot of scales and other measures, psychometric measures, in a way that we could have reliable findings, you know. When we work on the streets themselves, we couldn't use many of those instruments, but when we used to go to institutions like shelters or schools. We had a very special school for street children in Porto Alegre, where I live. So we could use regular scales, and we also have a lot of social demographic data about them. So, and we have some publications regarding quantitative data as well.
Brilliant. Over to you, Pina. Vendo, webinar.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I have lots of questions, but fortunately we're running out of the time. Sílvia, thanks a lot. It's been fascinating. And once again, you know, your presentation brings the complexity of an intervention, large-scale intervention over the years, because it's been involved for the several generation of students, and this has been done over the years, just not one-time intervention, one-time research activities. So it requires from people like you a large investment is let's say the project, the life project research, you know, that you know, lots of energy and lots of work. But I have a lot of other questions, but I will surely invite you for another moment, another meeting to discuss more, lots of details regarding, for instance, just one of the issues, let's say the epidemic connection with these children. Children in the streets are not so beautifully smelling and smiling as we have in mind. They are really somehow rude, and they are really, you know, not exactly, they do not convey our idea of what does it mean a child that is 5, 4, 3, 6 years old. And I was very curious to know how your research, especially the younger one, they deal with all this, you know, complexity of approaching them physically, if there are any repulsion, because this is something that we do not speak about. You know, we all think that, you know, there is a taboo zone. There is a repulsion, rejection, feeling of, you know, uncomfortable feeling from the research side. If this happened, what did you do? How do you train? How you overcome this feeling of rejection, or feeling disgusting, of smelling, of everything epidemically, which is, I think, is an extremely interesting topic to be discussed in psychology today, but it's a big issue. If you have a very quick question, a quick answer about that, I will be more than happy. And together with, and otherwise I will, once again, thanks a lot, Sílvia, for your incredible talk.
Okay, I don't have a quick question. I have lots of stories to tell you, and very, very inclusive, very funny stories to tell you, but they are children.
Exactly.
They are children, and they not smell bad. You get used to it, and you feel that you are, in a place where you have very brilliant and full of life people. They just want to be, care about. So I don't remember having this feeling of, that they smell bad or everything. They just were children. And it was really, I am very grateful for, having this in my life and having my students as rising stars nowadays around the world who share this story with me. Thank you so much, Pina.
Thanks a lot. Who are you, Tatiana? I will leave. I have to run to class.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
We are very grateful to have you also, Dr. Koller, and thank you so much for being with us today and for inspiring us even to think globally about applying such research and also targeting such populations. And to that, we come to the end of our webinar session today. We'd like to invite you to join us on December 12th for our last webinar for Visions from the Global South webinar series. We'll be having Dr. Cooper with us on psychology in the Global South, looking at lessons from democracy after apartheid. We look forward to having you join us, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the day or night, no matter where you are. Thank you very much, Dr. Koller.
Thank you.
All.